Chocolate is one of the most popular foods in the world. Behind this beloved and romantic treat lies a heartbreaking reality. The key ingredient of delicious chocolate is cocoa, which comes from poor West African countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon. These African nations supply nearly 70% of the world's cocoa. But behind this production lies the inhuman labor, minimal wages, and life-threatening conditions faced by cocoa farmers. In this episode of Brain Boost, we will explore how African cocoa farmers have become modern-day slaves to meet European luxury demands. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe and click the bell icon. The history of chocolate spans thousands of years. Around 1900 BC, the Olmec civilization of Mexico and Central America first began using cocoa beans. But it became more popular during the Maya and Aztec periods. The Mayans made a drink called xocolotl from cocoa beans. Xocolotl means bitter drink. The word chocolate originated from this term. This drink was made using spices, chili and honey, and was used in religious rituals, weddings, and festivals. Cocoa beans were so valuable to the Mayans that they were even used as currency. The Aztecs considered cocoa as the food of the gods, and only the elite class and warriors were allowed to consume it. Chocolate arrived in Europe in 1502, when Christopher Columbus brought cocoa beans from the Americas. However, it didn't gain much attention at the time. Later, in 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés learned about cocoa from the Aztecs and introduced it in Spain. There, cocoa was mixed with sugar and vanilla to sweeten the bitter taste. By the 16th century, it became popular among the Spanish royal family and the aristocracy. Gradually, chocolate spread to France, England, and other European countries. In 1828, Dutch chemist Coenraad van Houten invented the cocoa press, which could separate cocoa butter from the beans. This made cocoa powder production easier and chocolate drinks more accessible. In 1847, the British company Fry & Sons created the first edible chocolate bar, a solid mixture of cocoa powder, sugar, and cocoa butter. In 1875, Swiss chocolatiers Daniel Peter and Henri Nestlé made milk chocolate by adding powdered milk, making chocolate even smoother and more popular. In the 19th century, European colonial powers began cultivating cocoa in Africa to meet the increasing demand for raw chocolate ingredients. By the 20th century, companies like Mars, Hershey's, Nestlé, and Cadbury started producing various types of chocolate bars, candies, and desserts, dominating the global chocolate industry. Today, Switzerland consumes the most chocolate per capita, with the average Swiss citizen eating around 10 to 11 kilos annually. However, Germany is the world's largest chocolate exporter, shipping about $561 billion worth of chocolate each year. Belgium is also renowned for producing the highest quality chocolate. European countries are so passionate about chocolate that some universities even offer specialized courses in chocolate engineering, but the true cost of this chocolate luxury is paid by poor West African nations. Ivory Coast alone produces about 40% of the world's cocoa. Roughly 6 million people in Ivory Coast depend on the cocoa industry. They produce around 2 million metric tons of cocoa annually. Yet a cocoa farmer here earns just 50 cents to $1 a day, far below the World Bank's poverty line. One report says a farmer must harvest 3 tons of cocoa beans to earn just $1, equal to nearly 12 hours of hard labor. Ghana, the second largest cocoa producer, relies heavily on cocoa exports for its economy. Though the Ghanaian government has a central board to buy cocoa at fair prices, small-scale farmers have seen little improvement in their lives. Major companies like Nestlé, Hershey's, and Mars deliberately keep cocoa prices low to maximize their profits. Among leading chocolate companies, Mars alone earned $22 billion in revenue in 2023. Next comes Mondelez International with $14.4 billion, Ferrero Group with $13.8 billion, Hershey with $10.3 billion, and Nestlé with $8.5 billion. Yet when it comes to paying fair wages, they remain stingy. The suffering doesn't end with low wages. Cocoa farming is a dangerous job. Farmers face extreme heat, high humidity, and toxic insects. They often use sharp tools like machetes, increasing accident risks. They are also heavily exposed to pesticides, causing respiratory problems, skin, diseases, and long-term health issues. Another grave concern in cocoa farming is child labor. Over 2 million children work in cocoa farms in Ivory Coast and Ghana, some under the age of 5. These children work in hazardous conditions, carry heavy loads, and miss out on education. In some cases, children are trafficked from neighboring countries like Burkina Faso and made to work without pay. In places like Eastern Congo, armed groups have taken over cocoa farms, forcing farmers to work under threats. This cocoa is then smuggled into Uganda and ends up in the supply chains of major international chocolate companies. Cocoa farming also faces environmental challenges. Extreme weather conditions like excessive rainfall and drought in West Africa have severely disrupted cocoa production. In 2024, the global cocoa shortage reached 500,000 tons, driving chocolate prices up. However, farmers do not benefit from this price hike. Most profits go to middlemen and large corporations. Moreover, new deforestation laws have limited the expansion of cocoa plantations, tightening supply even more. This has created additional financial pressure on farmers who are unable to increase their production. Although big chocolate companies claim they're making their supply chains more transparent, the reality is that most cocoa is still sourced through inhumane practices. Despite billions of dollars in transactions in the global chocolate market, the real creators, the cocoa farmers, continue to suffer from poverty and neglect. To satisfy the luxury of consumers in Europe and beyond, African farmers have become virtual slaves to chocolate. Even after life-risking hard labor, they can't meet their basic needs, and yet the global chocolate market earns over $120 billion every year. Unless this exploitative system changes, Africa's cocoa farmers will fall deeper into the trap of modern slavery.